Welcome to the finalist voting for the Maven Portfolio Showdown. It's a slightly different format that we're used to. We typically add a new data set to the data playground and then build a challenge around analyzing it. But this time, we launched a whole new feature to our site, the Maven Showcase, so we had to do something special for it, including our first ever prize of a lifetime membership. So the Maven Showcase, for those of you that don't know, is a place for analysts to upload their projects, build their portfolio, and then connect with the data community from around the world for free. So for the Maven Portfolio Showdown, the task was for participants to create their Maven Analytics portfolio with at least 4 data analytics projects in it, and then share it on LinkedIn. And then from there, the 10 posts with the most reaction would make the first shortlist of finalists. Now, by this point in this conversation, we've already narrowed that list down to 5. We've got Marjoline, Azine, Gerard, and Arpit from the popular vote. And we've also added Judd as a Maven pick. And the criteria that we used and will continue to use in this discussion to select the eventual winner are the following. And they're based on factors that we'd look at as recruiters when evaluating analytics talent using their project portfolios. So number 1, does the portfolio capture the attention of the viewer? Number 2, are the bio and project cards clear and concise with clear titles and descriptions? Do the projects cover a variety of tools and topics? And finally, and probably most importantly, do they showcase technical proficiency, strategic thinking, and communication skills through their project at the same time as showing an overall just passion for data and analytics? So now that we've got that covered, let's take a look at our first finalist.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to dig into Azine's portfolio here, and again, kind of thinking about the kind of the rubric or the grading criteria that Enrique just talked about. Again, overall, Azine did a fantastic job with her profile and in building out like a really robust set of projects here. So kind of first off, thinking about, capturing somebody's attention, as soon as I land on Azine's profile here, really clear, background image, awesome portfolio picture. And again, I'm kind of immediately drawn in, right? It's well put together. It's inviting, and I get a good sense that, Azine here is an analyst and, can clearly see that by, some of the title and description pieces here. Right. It kind of brings me into the bio, the about me, how things are organized. Again, love that. I can see Azine's current title, location, got some clear social links if I wanted to go deeper into, her LinkedIn or Twitter. From here, a really great about section, right? Again, it gives me a very clear understanding of, kind of what Azine is all about. Kind of the scope of some of her current projects, working for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention in Africa. And then again, some great work experience, education. Again, it's just really well built out, pretty robust here. And then similarly with all of the projects that she's added in. So again, clearly laid out, great titles, good, excerpts and descriptions here. So again, it's very much captures attention. It's clearly laid out. And again, at a glance, I get a very good understanding of what each of these projects, are also about here. Up next, kind of went through all of the different projects that Azine had added, and she's using Excel and Power BI, Tableau, Python, across some of these projects, multiple tools on some, single tools on others. And one of the specific projects that I wanted to dig into was actually her machine learning model and to predict return on ad spend, or ROAS. So with this project, again, I love that, again, this is a single tool. She used Python here. And again, thinking about, the purpose of this, right? It's not necessarily just to show a great dashboard or, kind of a pretty set of pictures or a link to YouTube or something like that. She does all that, but it's really much more, right? So we have a great, I think this is about a 14-minute overview of Azine talking about this whole project here. It's great, really in depth. But beyond that, I can actually scan through the about section here and understand the background, the goal of this project, dig into the methodology that she took to actually go about, approaching this analysis. From there, she clearly outlines a bunch of different key insights and a recommendation, and then some additional information here about how she approached validating the model, right? So again, applying some additional context there to the kind of accuracy, I guess we'll say, of the model here. So overall, like it's a lot of really great detail. That is somebody coming in to look at this project, I would say, okay, I clearly understand her process, her problem solving ability, the critical thinking side of it. So I really couldn't ask for any more detail within the about section here than Azina has demonstrated. And the great thing is that this is the same case for all of the projects in her portfolio. So really, really well done here. The other thing is that I would give Azina a little bonus point for is that she's actually going in and interacting and liking other projects within the showcase here. So you can see that she's gone in and liked a bunch of different other projects here. So again, Azina, awesome job here.
All right, so I will take our next finalist, which is a very familiar name at this point, Gerard Duggan. For anyone who doesn't know Gerard yet, he's a very, very active voice in the data community. He's been a challenge winner multiple times. He was recently inducted into our 2022 Hall of Fame class. Just an incredibly talented analyst and a really great member of the community. So if you're not following him already, go ahead and give him a follow. So as I start to think about the judging criteria here, and the first things I'm looking for, like, does this portfolio capture my attention? Is he using kind of clear bios, project titles, excerpts, etc.? Is he representing a nice variety of tools and topics and techniques to show his versatility as an analyst? Short answer is he's nailing everything here. I love the bio. He's got a really robust profile and portfolio here. Links to LinkedIn, Twitter, his YouTube channel. You can see I'm actually already following him here in the Showcase platform. I love his about section because it talks not just about his technical skills, but it also paints a picture of who he is as a person. The fact that he's a Hall of Fame member, he's active in the communities, he loves to help people and provide support, and he's got his own blog and website of his own. Bonus points for this very impressive trophy case of Maven collections. You can see he's been a very active student on our platform, which we obviously love to see. Really strong work experience showcased here, education, and then he's using the additional link section to link out to our induction blog post, which was when we announced him as part of the Hall of Fame, and his own blog here as well. So nice use of that additional link space. And then I'd give him a bonus point too for this custom design banner, which just looks super clean, really polished. It's another way to kind of visually showcase his accolades and accomplishments here. So in terms of the projects themselves, really nice, short and sweet, concise titles, nice descriptive excerpts that give you a good taste of what you're in for. And really, if you're wondering about best practices for titles or subtitles or excerpts, I think Gerard is a great example to follow here. It gives you just enough information to know what the analysis is all about. And then if I drill into one of these, I'm actually going to look at the Unicorn Company Trends project. This is a embedded Power BI report. He also has some Tableau work, some Excel work. I believe he has some YouTube videos embedded here as well. So again, showing that versatility. This was the winning submission for our Unicorn Challenge a few months back. Got the interactive Power BI report here. Really nice featured image. But what does it for me, and this is the fourth kind of judging criteria that we keep in mind, which is he demonstrating his problem-solving ability, his critical thinking ability, his communication skills? And I think he's absolutely doing that extremely well here. And he does this with just about all of his projects. He's talking about setting the context and the scene for this analysis, guiding the reader through how he's approaching it, what questions he's posing, what tools and techniques he's using to solve the problems, and then what insights and recommendations he's deriving through the analysis. And that's just such a strong way to showcase your skills as an analyst. And if you put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager or a recruiter, it's so clear that this just paints a picture of who Gerard is as a person and as a professional. So overall, really, really outstanding work from Gerard. He's got the custom thumbnails as well, which is another bonus point for him. Anyone looking for a good example of how to craft a great project and a great portfolio, again, I think Gerard is a really good example to follow. Really not much in terms of constructive criticism here. I'd say, Gerard, you're killing it. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. So another familiar face. We have Marjolaine, who is one of our Rockstar Challenge participants, always in the finals in competition for that #1 spot. So love to see your profile here. And very similar to Gerard, just a very complete profile. I love her about me as well. So she gives us a sense for who she is as an analyst. Not only does she tell us what her personality as an analyst is, but she also gives us a brief summary of the types of work that she performs and gives us a sense for what she might be like to work with as a coworker, which is, again, great hook. I want to learn more. I want to take a look at her projects just based on the short and sweet about section here. And as one of our power users of Maven, she has a very healthy Maven credential set, which just tells us that she is a lifelong learner and she's someone you can rely on to continue developing her skills throughout her career. Additionally, just really nice and brief work experience as well as education. But this left bar just tells me that Marjolaine is an experienced analyst that brings a lot to the table, both from a lifelong learning perspective as well as a professional experience perspective. One other thing that was a little bit unique about Marjolaine's profile is that she actually kind of created these custom images for each of her profile pictures or each of her project pictures. So we have these colored banners as well as images of her dashboards or visuals, which I thought was a really nice touch and visual polish. It just kind of tells me as a viewer or recruiter that she's putting a lot of effort into polishing up her final product here, which I think is a really great way to approach this. Her banner image is nice. It's not the default. It's mountains. So maybe I get to have an opportunity if I were to interview or talk with her about what her hobbies are. Maybe we learn she likes mountains. If nothing else, it's a nice aesthetic polish to this profile. Like others, she's also taking a look at a few other profiles and liking them, which is just a nice bonus point for us as Maven to see she's interacting here. But let's go ahead and take a look at these titles. This is probably the biggest nitpick on Marjolaine's portfolio that I could offer is, I think that the hooks here could be a little bit tighter. And in some cases, it's almost a little bit meta. So she's really coming to this portfolio as a challenge participant rather than a job seeker. And so I think some of and we'll dive into this individual projects, but some of the commentary is more critical than I think you would want it to be if you were producing this as a job seeker. So for example, if we were to take a look at this taxi challenge, we see a few different pieces that are maybe like, I had no intention of participating until the closing ceremony on the last day of the challenge, which isn't really going to be a hook that's as appealing to recruiters or hiring managers as it would be, to the challenge community. So I think that's one area that, it's fine for Marjolaine as one of our Rockstar Challenge participants, but this is one area that if you're looking at Marjolaine's profile as someone looking to develop a portfolio to look for jobs, where I would probably avoid some of the language here. And then the titles are maybe a little bit long. I think overall, this is probably the biggest feedback, is that they're not quite hooks for someone who's interested in learning about analyses. They're more hooks for learning about challenge participation. And so I think that's the biggest nitpick in general on Marjolaine's portfolio and main page. And then diving into the project, just incredibly structured about. So I have a very good sense for how Marjolaine was thinking about these projects. And so, she leads with a really strong objective. We get a sense for her final product. And then she kind of, slowly reveals more details as we move through, which I think is a great format. And she does showcase some of the technical skills, by showing us a little bit of raw code, not too much, but just enough behind the curtain to demonstrate the type of technical work she's capable of, which I really like. And again, I think some of the language in here, again, if you were pitching this as a job seeker, we might hold some of the self-criticism. So for example, there's a couple portions that, I can't remember why I've chosen blue and gray. And I think that as we package our portfolio, we want to sell our skills a little bit more. And I think this is a little bit of the Dutch culture of being very direct and straightforward, maybe counteracting that goal of job seeking. But again, I think she's coming towards this as a challenge participant. But overall, in terms of describing how she thinks and her analytical approach, it's a really amazing detail here. I just think that some of the language would not be as appropriate. For example, I forgot to give the heat map a title. And if you are using your portfolio to look for a job, this is where you should go back and give your heat map a title. So you're really putting your best foot forward as opposed to nitpicking your own work in your portfolio. But that aside, all of her projects are very comprehensive. They have all of the information we need. And despite some of the self-criticism, I think that there's more than enough here as a recruiter or hiring manager for me to be really interested in talking with Marjolaine. And I think there is room for self-criticism in a portfolio project, or, I typically, when I taught at boot camps, told my students to package that as next steps. So my next steps would be to clean up X and Y. My next steps would be to dig into these piece of the data, et cetera, as opposed to saying, I don't know why I didn't do this, or I wish that I had done this. You could kind of package it as, I acknowledge that this could use a little bit more work, and this is how I would tackle this. If you do, it's not always feasible to go back and edit all of your projects, particularly ones that you might have started earlier in your analytical career. But overall, Marjolaine, as always, you did a great job. And because you always do a great job, I get to spend a little bit more time on things that maybe we could fix. But thank you so much for participating. Great job.
Okay, so next up we have our Pete Sarkar, who has put together a really robust portfolio with almost 20 projects. So let's take a closer look here. First of all, the first piece that we were looking at, does this capture my attention? And I have to think that it does. Yes, he does use the Maven gradient for the header, and he actually uses this as the background for his profile image as well. I don't think it adds much value, but it certainly doesn't detract. And what I do think it does is actually move the focus down to the areas that matter most. So right off the bat, you've got a nice description outlining, where he works, the fact that he's an analytics specialist, and he's got some of his certifications. He links out to his link profile and his GitHub profile, which is interesting. And then he's got this really clear and concise bio that I actually really like. It's not as wordy, let's say, as we've seen in others, but I think it does a great job in really just highlighting that he really loves doing this kind of stuff, which I think is very important to kind of differentiate yourself from other people that may have projects that are just, the same quality. So the other thing that really caught my attention and that kind of moves me on to the next criteria is the title of the first project here. I think maybe it's because of the fact that it's posed as an interesting question kind of drew me in. And from there, I was just hooked to either dig into this one, which we will in a bit, or to just scroll down to see some of his other projects. And if we do, you'll see that not only are there a lot, but it's a very diverse, they're very diverse topics. And it looks like he's built some really comprehensive dashboards in here as well. See, we have to load more just to take a look at all of them, which is close to 18. And he's also got these really nice descriptions in each one that do a really good job in teasing what's behind without giving it all away or kind of losing our attention. So I think this is a really good example to follow as far as how to set up your portfolio if you do want to go for a shorter type of bio, I think this is a great example. And just overall what he does with his titles and descriptions, I think is great as well. So from there, I'm actually going to jump into his first project here on where immigrants are settling in Canada, because that's the one that actually caught my attention first. You'll see that he used Excel and Tableau, which is a common theme throughout his projects. He actually used a bit of Java here as well that he added in his additional project images to extract the data from his different sources. But from there, you can take a look at his Tableau dashboard, which he embedded, which helps a lot. And you can tell that he's really, skilled at using Tableau by just looking at this one and some of the others. What I will say, though, that could be improved about his portfolio is that final criteria, which is whether RP displays the analytics trifecta or not. Granted, I think the fact that he's embedded his dashboard and we can interact and take a look at it does kind of showcase his technical ability with the tool, as well as some implied communication skills and strategic thinking that have to be behind the design and the analysis that we're seeing here. But I do think that he can make better use of this space to kind of peel back one layer further and really give us more context behind the scope and the outcomes of each of his projects. Overall, though, I think that this profile speaks volume of RP as an analyst, as a Tableau specialist, and just as someone that loves working with data. So I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a great example for anyone that's building a profile to follow.
Okay, so we have the final finalist here tonight. Judd is actually a Maven's pick. So this is a guy who isn't an analyst, and I'm stressing this immediately for a reason. So we get a lot of folks who are pivoting into the field, are maybe early on in their careers, and I think that this is the project portfolio to look at. It captured my attention immediately just by virtue of graphics. So it's really polished. It has a custom built background picture. It has a very good, neat, professional profile picture. But what I liked about it the most, and you will see this throughout the project, so Judd expresses that he's not an analyst, that he wants to become an analyst. So what he does in the About section is actually really smart. So he ties his background and his previous experience with how it would fit with any sort of analytical work. And plus, he adds, for those who will read this, all of the details that he undertook in the meantime to bridge the gap. So the coursework, the project work, and whatnot. Besides all of that, he has work experience section, education sections. They're there for a reason, and I love seeing folks use it. There are some social links there. Overall, really polished landing page for Judd. So moving on to the second criteria, I love his titles. So they are just the right blend of like creative and descriptive sort of mix that really tells a lot in not as many words. One thing that I will call out is that I would really like it if his these sort of descriptions below were a tiny bit more concise. As it is, they draw a little bit too much focus from the overall page, and I would just really love it if there were a little fewer words there that were more descriptive. But I'm splitting here, so it has to be said. Another thing, while I'm giving constructive criticism, are these thumbnail pictures for his projects. I don't mind the GIF, the animation. What we've seen so far, and what would probably give this landing page an ultra polished look, is either a strategically placed cover, or if he's using some of the screenshots from his own work, maybe just focus it a little bit, just so they're a little bit more similar. I think it would go a long way. It shouldn't be a lot of lift to do that. That's basically what I will say in terms of constructive criticism for this landing page. I wanted to dig into his projects, and let's just go here, for example. So Judd does a multitude of tools. he predominantly works with Power BI, but he has projects that cover Excel, R, SQL, I think MySQL specifically. So he does, again, ties back into his about section where he shows anybody who will look that he's able to do all of these things, even though he has no actual background analytical experience. So the Power BI dashboard here is embedded. It's interactive. You can slice and dice all of this data as you see fit. And what I like about his projects, and we didn't really see this a lot, which was sort of a surprise for me because we talk about this a lot, is the communication skills. So he obviously he can do the work. There is a lot of technical details here, but that's not all of it. He can also explain what he's doing, which he does in the about section, and all of his projects have this very, very well developed section. It's a very short intro. It's a recommendation, and where the project calls for it, there are some sort of conclusions or recommendations, depending on the topic of the project. So at the end, what I would really like to emphasize, we've seen some really great portfolios so far. And these folks are arguably very talented, but they're also very experienced. Judd here is a beginner. So he's trying to break into the field, and he already has a portfolio which speaks a lot. And there are some elements in these portfolios that scream experience where he actually has none. So that's my main takeaway from this. If I were some sort of a recruiter and I saw a person with no experience build all of this, I would be impressed. Great job, Judd.
Awesome. So now that we've reviewed all of the finalists, I'd like to open up the floor for just nominating maybe 2-3 standout portfolios for the final showdown and discussion amongst the entire group.
Yeah, I think Gerard is another really strong example of doing just about everything right. So I think he's certainly worthy of a top spot here.
And for me, I'm gonna go back to Zena and nominate her, right? Similar kind of feedback to Gerard, right? Like looking across all of the kind of categories, like there's nothing there that I would have really, knocked her for or brought her down any sort of, any sort of point reductions, if you will, on any of those categories. So again, really, really buttoned up, and again, just at the same level as Gerard in my mind.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reiterate my case for Judd. So considering his relative lack of experience and the fact that he's the aspiring analyst, just the amount of detail and effort that went into this, I think it deserves a conversation at the table here.
All right. So looks like we're leaning kind of these 3 ways. Chris Sproul, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think we've gotten the 3 that I would have suggested. I definitely like Arpit and Marjoleen's quite a bit, but I think the descriptions there are maybe a little bit less fleshed out, or have some of that language issue with respect to that self-criticism that really make it, to me, those 3 that you just all mentioned, the top. But between them, it's very challenging because we have this sort of dichotomy between, literal Hall of Famer Gerard, polished professional Zena, and then we have, aspiring data analyst Judd. And it feels strange to compare them. I mean, these are both profiles that, are compelling entrants and people that should be on our platform, whether you're an experienced professional or an aspiring analyst. It's difficult to compare those profiles because they're 2 very different user types and backgrounds. So that's where I'm struggling right now in terms of thinking about between those 3 where my mind goes.
I agree. I love seeing a profile like Judd's, where, like, for someone who is an aspiring analyst looking to break in, like Bronislav talked about, this is just such an impressive showcase of work. And putting myself in the hiring manager's shoes for an entry-level role, I would be absolutely blown away by this. And really, this is the use case that we had in mind building this part of the product. So I think it's absolutely worth a consideration. And maybe we get crazy here and maybe we give away 2 lifetime memberships and kind of break out these categories. And maybe we give one to kind of the battle of the experienced professional analysts, and maybe we give one to Judd as the aspiring analyst, kind of leading the charge in that category too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I love that idea.
That sounds amazing.
All right.
Which I guess would lead us to having to face off between these 2 portfolios. The initial thoughts, I know they all kind of met all the criteria that we were looking for, so we're really going to have to, I guess, nitpick to find anything that maybe differentiates one for the other. But I'm open to any thoughts. Maybe Aaron, do you want to pitch in on Azina since you have more context behind her portfolio?
Sure. So again, like if I'm comparing and contrasting, Azina and Gerard, right? Like I think the same comments could be made about both of both of their portfolios and profiles. So it's really challenging there. Again, we've seen Gerard's work, his contributions to the overall community, the depth that he goes in explaining his process and rationale and all that kind of stuff. It's like I think we see the exact same things here with Azina, where she's providing a very thorough analysis and easy to follow kind of process behind all of the projects. I love the breadth of tools that are being used from Excel through common BI tools and into Python and all that kind of stuff. So I love not only the ability to showcase, oh yeah, I do know these different tools, but it's actually at a pretty deep level there as well. I know Chris Brule, like we were kind of talking about, like the Twitter and just kind of some of the other social proof of her ability to be an analyst. And again, it's for a lot of those same reasons. I think Gerard and Azina are doing a lot of the same things, just potentially in different mediums. Whether it's writing blog posts about how I solved or tackled this challenge, or creating really rich content on Twitter and LinkedIn and sharing it that way. So again, like if I was thinking about it and thinking about the context of this challenge, right, and some of the kind of initial criteria and stuff, I think the only other piece that we really haven't factored in here is really like the reactions, right, and kind of the social likes and engagements for the posts.
And I think Azina edged out Gerard in that metric, right?
Correct.
I agree. I think it's really, really tough to criticize either one of these. When we did our initial scoring exercise, both got perfect marks across the board. Obviously we all know Gerard's a Hall of Famer, a challenge winner. He's picked up pretty much every accolade that we can offer, including platform access. I think either one of these, Azina or Gerard, has the merit and the quality to win this challenge. And I think if I had to come up with a tiebreaker, maybe the engagement metric on the initial post is that tiebreaker. So I think you make a pretty good case for Azina here.
All right, so it seems like we're kind of on the fence between Azina and Gerard. I think it's as good as time as any to just vote on it and see who comes out as the winner. We could do Azina 1, Gerard 2, if everyone's ready.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right.
Ooh, the ones have it.
The ones have it. So it looks like, let me move this over. Azina is our grand champion for the Maven Portfolio Showdown. Let's give her a round of applause.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congrats.
Great work, Azina.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well
You'll be taking home our biggest prize yet, which is a lifetime membership to Maven Analytics. So congratulations once again. And it sounds like we're up for giving Judd a second winner badge as the Maven pick and as the aspiring analyst profile. If everyone's okay with that, let's just give him a round of
Most
applause as
definitely
well.
okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Yeah, awesome job,
Judd.
Awesome work, Judd.
Congratulations. Well, that wraps us up. Congratulations to the winners. Thanks to everyone else that participated in this showdown and that just built their portfolio on our site. The Maven Showcase is growing every day, and we can't wait to see some of the other projects all of you have in store. I know we've got another data challenge coming up soon, so stay tuned, and thanks, everyone.